Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about ancient wisdom. It's rooted in theosophy. If you saw the episode of this series on the New Age movement, the name Madame Blavatsky might sound familiar to you. She was the 19th century spiritualist responsible for popularizing many New Age tropes that are still common today. And as a founding member of the Theosophical Society, she was one of the earliest and most influential promoters of ancient wisdom, the notion that enlightened masters in the distant past possessed knowledge far superior to what we have today, and, crucially, that this ancient wisdom had been handed down to a handful of modern teachers, whom Madame Blavatsky and her fellow theosophists referred to as Mahatmas. There are a few problems with this. First and foremost, the Mahatmas were a fraud perpetrated by Madame Blavatsky. From 1880 to 1884, 2 of the Mahatmas, whom Madame Blavatsky claimed had instructed her in the secrets of ancient knowledge, supposedly wrote a series of letters to her fellow theosophist A.P. Sinnett. These letters were subsequently examined by paranormal investigator Richard Hodgson, who concluded that they were most likely forgeries written by Madame Blavatsky herself. But even if much of the modern philosophy of ancient wisdom wasn't based on counterfeit documents created by a shameless and prolific charlatan, there would still be some very serious issues with it. There is just no getting around one inescapable fact about appealing to ancient wisdom. It's fallacious. Appealing to ancient wisdom isn't just a fallacy. You've got an appeal to tradition in there, there's some appeal to authority, there's a dash of noble savage to set it off. It's fallacy chop suey. It's one thing to romanticize the past, to long for the simpler life of our ancestors. I don't really get it myself, but I guess there's nothing wrong with it. But there's no reason to assume that people who lived thousands of years ago had a better understanding of life, the universe, and everything, to quote Douglas Adams, than we do. In fact, what we know about what they thought they knew makes the whole notion of ancient wisdom even more foolish. Because compared to us, the ancients didn't know shit. I'm not trying to sound cocky here. There's still a lot of shit we don't know. Hopefully, people who live thousands of years in the future will know a lot more than we do, just as we know a lot more than people who live thousands of years in the past. That's not to say that our ancient ancestors were dummies. Far from it. Some of them were brilliant, and they laid the foundations for the knowledge and the knowledge-gathering methods that we have today. That's the thing about knowledge. It accumulates. One generation builds on the discoveries and insights of the last. Understanding increases, and attitudes and interpretations evolve. We can see this happening in our own lifetimes. So it seems incredibly silly to me to insist that the great existential mysteries that continue to confound and fascinate scientists and philosophers today were actually solved millennia ago, and then the solutions were conveniently forgotten by all but a chosen few. That sounds fishy to me, and does absolutely nothing to dissuade me from the opinion that science is better. There's a reason why the only modern promoters of the value of ancient wisdom are peddlers of alternative medicine and New Age philosophy, not scientists. It's because science relies on critical thinking, and critical thinking enables us to conclude that ancient wisdom is, what's the technical term? Woo-woo horseshit. If somebody tells you that they know something, but the only way they can explain to you how they know it is to chalk it up to ancient wisdom, you can safely ignore them and what they claim to know, because they don't know it. The hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.